this video, we're teaching you over a dozen of our favorite tips and tricks that we use in Procreate to make our workflow a lot more efficient and fun. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first tip is drawing a perfect line. So if you wanted to draw a straight line on your canvas, you can see that this line has some imperfections. But in order to make it a perfectly straight line, draw your line and then at the end, pause for a second. And now you can see you've created a perfectly straight line. In order to create this line, you'll have to just lift your pencil at the end. Now you will see at the top appears a little menu that says Edit Shape. Now if you've drawn this line as almost like an arc like this and pause and hold, you can edit it and turn it into an arc that you can adjust or back into a straight line. Now a bonus tip on this one is if you want your line to be perfectly horizontal at a 0-degree angle, once you draw your line, pause at the end, and then take one finger and tap and hold it on the screen, and now you've got a perfectly straight horizontal line. You can also snap it to 15-degree increments to make it 90 degrees or 45 degrees and all the way around the clock. Tip number 2 is about creating shapes. So let's say you wanted to create a perfect square inside of your artwork. You can do this by drawing your best looking square and then hold it at the end, and you can see it says quadrilateral created. So then go to Edit Shape and you can change this into a rectangle. So these two sides and these two sides are the same length as each other. I'm not seeing a square come up, so I must not have drawn it well enough. So let's try that again. Drawing my best square, pause, hold at the end, go to Edit Shape, and now square appears. Now another little trick to not have to have that menu come up is you can draw your best square, pause and hold it, and then take one finger, press it down, and the perfect square is going to be created for you. A bonus tip here is that you can fill these shapes with colors really easily. So if I grab a different color up here in the color wheel, instead of having to color this shape in, I'm going to tap with 2 fingers to undo that. You can take this color and drag and drop it into the shape, and now you have a filled-in rectangle. So if your letters or your shape has a small gap in it and you try to fill it, let's see, that must not be small enough of a gap. I'm going to erase just a tiny piece of this. Okay, so now we have a tiny gap in this square, so if I try to drop in my color, it's just going to fill the entire screen because this isn't enclosed. It's like pouring paint into a bucket that has a hole in it. It's just going to spill everywhere. So let's undo that. Now you actually can get this square filled even though it has that gap. So let's drag that in again, and now hold your pencil down. At the top you'll see color drop threshold. Right now it's at 100%, but if I slide my pencil to the left, the color drop threshold is getting smaller and smaller. Let me undo that, I gotta. And once you get to 0%, it's going to fill the square itself. So once again, color drop in here. Make sure your color drop threshold is at 0%. If you drag your pencil to the right, it's going to increase the percentage, and you can see how that's changing what area is filled. Going back to our brush, we can draw any shape perfectly. So if you draw your best looking circle, tap and hold, and then hold one finger down, it's going to make a circle for you. And you can actually do this with any polygon. So you can draw like this, just hold it at the end, it's going to create these straight lines for you, and then you can edit it as if it were a vector right here. Now just so you know, as soon as you go out of this menu, you're no longer going to be able to edit it, it will just be pixels. Okay, so now I can no longer move those around. So now we're going to talk about some brush characteristics and shortcuts. So let me go to my brushes, and I have under calligraphy, I have monoline, which is a default brush, and I've duplicated it twice here. So to duplicate a brush, you can just drag it to the left and choose duplicate. So I have monoline 1 and monoline 2, and I've changed one setting for each of these. The same setting, it's just at a different threshold. So I want to show you what the difference is. So using monoline 1, if I were to write hello, all right, you can see that the pencil wrote exactly how I was writing on the page. The strokes aren't super smooth, like these curves aren't very nice and rounded. Let me go to my monoline 2 brush, which I've customized, and do the same thing. So let's write hello. So you can see a pretty big difference here. The strokes look a lot more smooth and the curves are nice and rounded. And even when I'm just writing like this, you might be able to see a difference. I can definitely feel a difference. So the difference in these two is that for the second one, the curves are stabilized. And for the first one, they aren't. So this is the streamline setting in the brushes. And you can find this by tapping into your brush, going to the stroke, and the second stroke property, streamline, you would adjust to bring it up or down. A bonus little tip here is that you can play with your brushes in this little preview window. So right now it has streamline all the way on. So if I draw this, now if I reduce streamline, you can see what it would actually have looked like with no streamline on. So here the strokes are exactly how I drew them. With streamline at max, it's going to stabilize and self-correct those curves. Okay, tip number 4 is about erasers. So let's actually start with a brush. So in my brush library, you can see there's all these different brushes, and a brush is basically just a tool. It doesn't have to actually be like a paintbrush. But if I go into painting right here, and let's choose dry brush. So right now with my brush, I can use some texture to create some artwork. Now if I wanted to erase any of it, if I just used, let's say, my monoline eraser, I'm going to increase the size of it over here, and I just wanted to erase like this edge of it, then you can see now we're kind of losing that texture on the edge, so it doesn't really match up with this. So if I undo that, you can actually choose in your brush library the exact same brush that you were using, and so that you can get some texture. So let's go to painting and find, so there's dry brush. So now I'm able to erase with the same texture to make it look more organic. So tip number 4 is that your eraser library is the same as your brush library. Okay, I'm gonna go back to calligraphy monoline here for my eraser. So let's say that I am, again, I'm drawing with a textured brush. Maybe let's do this time we can do airbrushing. So I'm drawing with my airbrush brush, and I want to do the same thing I did before. I want to find my eraser in airbrush. So tip number 5 is that you can actually very quickly and easily change your eraser to whatever current brush you're using. So right now I'm using the airbrush, and if I tap and hold on my eraser icon, did you see that? It said erase with current brush. So now it automatically chooses the same exact brush as my eraser. So this also works the opposite way. For if I have an eraser and I have, let's say, spray paint flicks on, and I'm erasing like this, I can tap and hold on the brush, paint with current brush, and it will paint with my spray paint brush. Okay, tip number 6 is the Smudge Library. So this little finger icon right here between the brush and the eraser, a lot of people miss it or don't see it right away, or maybe don't know what it's used for. So I wanted to show you what it is. So basically, it's the same library that you get with your brushes and your erasers, but the smudge tool doesn't add or erase pixels or paint, it moves them. So let's just choose this old brush smudge tool here. Now, if I were to draw over an area that doesn't have paint on it, then nothing's going to happen. But if I go over an area with paint, then you can see I'm smudging it, so I'm moving these pixels of paint. And it's based on the texture of whatever my smudge brush is. So if I go to like monoline under calligraphy and do the same thing, it's going to give me a different look than my other texture. Okay, so I like to think of this as almost like finger painting. Like if you have wet paint on a canvas and you took your finger and dragged it like this, then that is the kind of effect you'll get with your smudge tool. So for this tip, it's kind of hard to do. I'm going to go back to my monoline brush. So normally when I write with my monoline brush, no matter what direction I'm going or how hard I'm pressing, the line is the same thickness. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually change the size of your brush as you're going. So using the slider up here, let's bring it back down to the smallest it can be. And actually just to show you what the largest it could be, it looks like this. So as I'm drawing, right now I have it on the smallest setting. And as I go, this is kind of hard to do. You can slide this slider up and down. And as you go, you're going to be changing the size of your brush. Okay, it does take some practice to get this going, but you can do the same thing with opacity. So if you're drawing like a straight line down and you want the line to get more transparent, you can drag down your opacity slider, and now it gives you sort of that neat organic looking effect. On the note of these sliders, so right now my brush size is at 100%. Now I can drag this down to 1% and get a lot smaller line. Let's say I wanted to get 50%. So I'm dragging my slider here and keep passing it. Like right now it's at 48 and then I'm trying to get exactly 50%. There we go, finally got it. There's actually an easier way to get some precision in this slider. So right now, if I move my pen up and down the full length of this slider, it goes between 1% and 100%. But if I start here and then I drag my pencil out to the right, then I can move up and down, and right now I'm going, again, that full length of the slider, but it's only going between 32% and 37. And the further out I go, the more precise I am. So this is just going between 34% and 35%. So if you're trying to get a really specific percentage, then just while you're on the slider, drag your pencil out, go up and down, and you can get some more precision. And that actually works with any slider that you have in Procreate. So like opacity, you can drag this down, move your pencil down a little bit, and get some more precision. Okay, tip number 9 has to do with color. So remember before we were using pink, and now we're using this blue. So if I wanted to really quickly go back to that pink color, you can just tap and hold on your color wheel, and it gives you the previous color. I guess we were using purple before. So same thing, tap and hold, it's going to take me back to this blue. Now you can save colors to your color palette, which I would recommend if you like to use certain colors all the time, because this tip only applies to the previous color, so it can only save 2 colors in here. So if you use a lot of different colors, I would recommend creating a color palette, which you can do by choosing different colors on your color menu and then tapping inside the color palette. If you add a color you don't want anymore, you can hold on it and choose delete, and it will delete it from your palette. All right, tip number 10 is about copying and pasting quickly. So right now I have all of this on one layer, but let's say that I wanted this little heart, I'm gonna fill it with pink, this little heart to be on its own layer. So what you can do is take your selection, and I just have freehand selection on, go around it, tap your arrow to select it, and then take 3 fingers and swipe them down, and then do cut and paste. So it looks like nothing happened. The heart is in the same spot. But if we look at our layers, now you can see it's on its own layer. So you can use that swipe down shortcut to get to copy, cut, and paste. So if you wanted, let's say, let me go back to the layer with all of this stuff on it, select this line, and I wanted to just copy it onto its own layer so that I have a duplicate of it, then I would slide down and do copy and paste. So copy and paste keeps a copy of it. You can see that that line is still there. There's 2 copies of it. Cut and paste just removes it from one layer and puts it on a new layer. So I wanted to stop here and let you know about something that you may be interested in if you are interested in discovering all of the powerful features of the Procreate app through hands-on projects. We have an online course, and this is just a highlight video from it. The online course is called Procreate Lettering Projects, and we start from the very beginning with all of the basic features of the Procreate app, where to find everything, and specifically in the context of lettering, how you can unleash all of the powerful features that this app has to offer. Then we get into the project section, so you're going to learn all about how to create 16 different impressive looking projects, like this neon sign one. This glitter one is so much fun. You can create your own custom glitter, all sorts of different effects like that cool reflection here, intertwining letters, and advanced features that are going to teach you how to use the Procreate app in context, so that you're not just learning about clipping masks in isolation, you're actually learning how they apply to your piece. We talk about all the newest features, so this is the most up-to-date course with all the newest features that Procreate has released. At the end, we actually have a couple bonus lessons for you about creating cut files and mockups, and you get tons of additional resources with your enrollment. So here are the 16 projects that you'll learn how to create, in addition to learning how to navigate the Procreate app, and you'll get some bonus custom brushes that we've created, some lettering guides, and some other resources for you as well. So if you're interested in enrolling, go to lovelyloops.com/procreate. Okay, let's get back to the tips. So now we're going to talk about some settings that you can change in your preferences. So in this, if you want to get to your settings, hit this wrench icon in the top left and go to Preferences. Now, if you'd like to change the interface of your app, you can uncheck this light interface, or yours might be default unchecked, so you can change it from dark to light using that right there. Tip number 12, so if you have any issues where you're writing with your Apple Pencil and then you accidentally draw with your finger on your canvas instead of your Apple Pencil and you're getting lines that you don't want, you can actually turn that off. So go to Actions, Preferences, Gesture Controls, and then under General, you can turn on Disable Touch Actions. So mine was already disabled. If I turn that off and go to my canvas, now I can draw with a finger, but I want that to be off so I don't accidentally draw with a finger. So I'm going to turn on Disable. And now I can't draw with a finger, I can only draw with a brush. Tip number 13. Ever wonder how long you've spent inside a Procreate project? You can find out that information, go to your wrench and then find Canvas. And under Canvas, you'll see Canvas information. So this gives you tons of stats on the project that you're working on. But right here, tracked time, we can see this has been 20 minutes of tracked time. So we've spent 20 minutes inside this project file. You can also see some other cool things like how many strokes you've made. So I've made 111 strokes on this. And then video length, which leads into our next tip, which is you can watch a time-lapse video of your project. So tip number 14, to find that, is go to your Actions, Video, and then this first one right here is Time-Lapse Replay. So now I can watch a complete sped up video of everything that we've worked on so far throughout all of these tips, which is pretty neat. So you can see that our 20 minutes of work here was condensed into 7 seconds. While you're in this, you can actually take your finger and move it back and forth so that you can go to specific spots in this video. So right now I'm sort of rewinding it and now I'm fast forwarding it. So if there was a specific spot I wanted to go to, I can do that just by sliding my finger back and forth to the left and right. And then when you're done, just choose Done. If you'd like to export this video, just go to your Actions, Video, Export Time-Lapse Video. If you've been working on your project for a long time, like a couple of hours, then your time-lapse replay might end up being more than 30 seconds long. So this one, again, was only 7 seconds long. But if yours is more than 30 seconds, then when you go to export your time-lapse video, it's going to give you the option to choose the full length. So maybe yours is 45 seconds, or it will automatically condense it to 30 seconds for you if you don't want it to be super long. Here's a tip just about charging your Apple Pencil. So when I first got the iPad, I was using that little converter thing that comes with it, but you can actually charge your Apple Pencil right here. So if you plug in where you would normally plug in your charger into your iPad, you can plug your pencil in here and it charges just as well. And then you can also check the battery level of your pencil by swiping your screen to the left, and then mine is at the bottom here. You can see that you can tell your iPad percentage charged and your Apple Pencil percentage charged right here. All right, 2 more pro tips for you. So let's say, like, look at all this work we've done here. We have tons of different things on different layers. Now, if I wanted to just focus only on, let's say, this heart layer, instead of having to go through and manually uncheck every single one of these boxes just to show that heart, I'm going to put those back. An easier way to do it is just tap and hold on that checkbox, and then they all go away except the heart. So now you can focus just on this layer. Okay, I'm going to bring back this layer that has my squares and shapes on it. Now let's say that I wanted to move everything that's showing right now. I wanted to move it all up. So one thing that you could do is you could group these layers together, which would involve bringing this layer up to where this layer is, and then you can select that layer and choose Combine Down. Now it makes a group, and now you can move them together. But what if I don't want to have a group here, or I didn't want this layer to be on top of these? I'm going to undo all of that, so double tap, or tap with 2 fingers here until it goes back to where I was. So a better way to do this, if you just want to temporarily group these so you can move them or resize them together, is tap one of your layers. So I have my heart one, and then take your other one and slide it to the right. And now you can choose your arrow, move them around, resize them however you want, and they still stay temporarily grouped like this until you select out of that layer. So we hope that you enjoyed learning these tips, and let us know in the comments if you learned anything new. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe so that you don't miss any other videos. If you want to learn more about how to use Procreate for lettering to create some awesome techniques, we have an online course that starts off with the basics of using the Procreate app, using all of the menu items and common features that we use in our projects for lettering. Then we have a project section which walks you through over 16 step-by-step projects of how to create some amazing, impressive digital artwork. And it's going to show you exactly the settings and brushes and masks and clipping masks and layer management that we use so that you can recreate these amazing digital art projects that you're proud of. So we talk about lots of tips and tricks throughout to bring your lettering to life and make it look really impressive. So it's a lot easier, we think, to learn how to use the features of Procreate when you're doing it in a project context. At the end, we have a bonus section on how to create cut files and mockups using Procreate, and you get a ton of bonus resources as well. So these are the 16 projects that you will learn to create. You also get some custom brushes that we've made and some lettering guides, as well as the lettering templates for every single project as well. So if you are interested, go to lovelyloops.com/procreate to sign up today.